Thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate it very much. Welcome to the Indiana University Excellence Academy. It's good to have you here. It hardly seems possible, but 10 years ago, month after next, so on October 28th, I think it was, 10 years ago, I was announced as the next athletic director at Indiana University. And from day one, I've been talking about the importance of football. Talked about it at that press conference. Talked about it at most of these kickoff events. Some of you veterans remember that. Some of you new folks obviously do not. But I think football is critically important for three basic reasons, and these are the reasons we've been talking about for 10 years. Number one, it's important unto itself. Football disproportionately attracts attention to your institution. If you are not excellent in football, there is a perception that somehow your institution itself is less than excellent. And so participating in the Big Ten, being in the Power Five, we owe it to our football players, our football fans, to have an excellent football program because of football itself. But beyond that, football is critically important to the department. In most departments, it's the #1 driver of revenue among all the sports. In Indiana, that's men's basketball, in part because of the tremendous success we have in men's basketball, but in part because we have been underachieving in terms of the value football generates. So having a robust football program enables us to spend more money in the rest of the department. And again, unlike men's basketball, we have some inventory. We're not sold out. We can't do much better in men's basketball. We can do a lot better in football. If we just sold out our comparatively modest-sized stadium, we'd drop $10 million to the bottom line because our fixed costs are what they are, basically no matter how many people come to the games. But if we could add $10 million on our $105-ish million budget, that's real money that can go back into the football program but also support the rest of the department. So football is important for the department as well. And then finally, as I've said pretty much every year, football is also important from a university perspective. I believe, although I probably can't prove, that if football games are part of your undergraduate experience, you're much more likely to come back and want to go to football games as a young alumnus, as a young family, as a maturing family. And if you do that, then I think you're more likely to be involved in the university, maybe make a gateway gift to the foundation or be involved in the Dean's Advisory Council of your school or academic unit. So I think the stakes are really super high for football, for the department, and for the university. And that's why I've really unabashedly focused on football ever since I've gotten here. And again, as you veterans will sound familiar to you veterans, I think there's two ways that Indiana football gets to sustained excellence. And number one, that's continuous investment. And secondly, to the greatest extent we can, to have continuity with the leadership of that program. I made the sort of random analogy off the cuff before, and I've kind of embraced it over time. The football program is a little bit like Kings Island. You know, every summer there's got to be some new thing that people identify with as being an investment in that experience. And in some ways, so it is with football. I think we have to do new things all the time to send the right, first of all, and most importantly, to substantively support our students who participate in that sport. But secondly, to send the message to our students, our coaches, our fans, our competitors, that we're serious about football and we're not going to be a one-trick pony in terms of the investments that we make there. And I think we've lived up to that commitment in the last 10 years. So, for example, you're staring at the north end zone. That was underway. It was a great visionary pursuit by my predecessor as well as Terry Hepner. We were able to complete the funding and complete the project after I got here. We have a 25,000 square foot state-of-the-art strength conditioning center that's right on field level facing into the football stadium. It's underneath, brand new, at least at the time, head coaches' offices, staff offices, all located here in the football complex. As you guys know, there's an underground tunnel. Some of your readers and fans and subscribers, watchers may not know, but it goes out to the football fields, one of which is a brand new, or fairly brand new, a couple years old, artificial turf field, also connected to the Mellencamp pavilion for our indoor practice. So the north end zone itself, beyond at that time enclosing the grandstands facing each other into a horseshoe, was a major step forward in our commitment to the football program. Other investments in Memorial Stadium when I got here, it always bugged me, even growing up, that we had like a gauge fence with barbed wire on top of it going around the stadium. It looked like some sort of detention facility more than a Big Ten football stadium. That's been replaced by limestone pillars with what do we call that? The black black iron fencing stuff that they used to have over at 10th Street Stadium when it was down on 10th Street. A lot of branding, just improving the overall look and feel of Memorial Stadium. And then just the additional investments we've made in additional strength conditioning positions, additional assistant coaches positions, increasing the salary levels. So we feel like we've been true to our commitment to make major investments in the football program up to this point. But today we're here to talk about some additional improvements that I think are really transformational to Indiana football and the game day experience. Those will include ones involving Memorial Stadium, other football facilities, the football uniforms themselves, football traffic and parking, new football game day experiences, and the oldie but goodie list of all the traditions that we've tried to establish over the last 10 years. And I really believe that hopefully in the not too distant future we'll look back to this fall and maybe even this particular day and say that that may be a tipping point of when Indiana football really put itself in a position to have sustained excellence. I think a bunch of things are coming together at one time to create a moment in time that, notwithstanding what's gone on before, will really propel us in a dramatic way into the future. I'd like to spend a little bit of time talking about those 6 categories, and we'll have a press release with more detail for you guys, so don't wear your wrist out taking notes. First, with regard to Memorial Stadium, I don't think it's at all an overstatement to say that we will be opening a new Memorial Stadium this fall with the addition of the Excellence Academy and what that building means for football, enclosing the bowl, creating a bold new front door facing campus with a beautiful, inviting plaza. I always thought that the front of North End Zone is awesome, and it is, but it kind of goes off into parking. This really embraces the campus, and I think will be a real invitation for our fans to come and support Indiana football. And then the enclosure of the bowl, which was a dream for many for a long, long time, will be a dramatic improvement to the environment of football. The music from the band bouncing off the back as opposed to just drifting out into Never Never Land. The sound that the fans will have when the bowl is closed, the feeling that recruits will have to come into a stadium that is every bit the legitimate Big Ten stadium now that we've completed what not too long ago looked a lot like some 6A football or MAC grandstands facing each other. So that's a dramatic step forward. The Excellence Academy also facilitates a gigantic video board. It's 65% bigger than its predecessor, which I thought was pretty damn big to start with. The new one is 91 feet by 42 feet. That'll complement the one that you can see now, which is a mere 68 feet by 20 feet. It looks pretty big, but won't be so compared to its new brother. We'll add a video board on this end, roughly the same size as the video board, the video ribbon board that you can see down there. So there'll be a lot of action, a lot of video to enhance the game day experience. In terms of branding, we are doing branding throughout the arena with colors and graphics and pictures that are consistent with our new IU Athletics brand and uniform guidelines. At the press release, we'll attach some of those so you can see some of those. Some of those are yet to come. There's some really cool features of that I think will be exciting for our fans and for the game day experience. I noted the IU Athletics brand and uniform guidelines. I'm not ready to roll that out today. We'll do that in the coming weeks, but I'm really excited about the effort that put that together and is having some ripple effects on this football season that I'll continue to describe. Knothole Park, we were just talking before about coming here as little kids. When I came here as a little kid, we had the Knothole Club, and that was the grandstands in the end zone. And you paid like $10 and you got to go every game, and you got to get a t-shirt, and it was a great deal. And when I was older, we'd roll down the hills in boxes and stuff during the game that were kind of a cool part of the two grandstands facing each other. And as we grew and as progress came, we've wanted to keep that spirit of a real family-friendly environment, and that initially started with the mini football field in the south end zone, which has gone away as a result of enclosing Memorial Stadium. But upstairs will be the Sample Terrace, brought to you by the same person who brought you the Sample Gates. Edson Sample made a major gift. And we will have game days up there that are super kid-friendly, and it'll be the latest legacy to the Knothole Park. It'll be the Knothole Park at Sample Terrace, presented by our friends at Aggressively Organic. And the deal will be that we'll have a bunch of standalone games like a 3D selfie station, a mini quarterback throwing game, a mini field goal kicking game, a painting booth, as well as stadium concessions. And of course, the coolest part that we've talked about before in the context of the previous Knothole Park is every kid under 12 can be a member of the Knothole Club and get a card suitable for sticking in your purse or wallet. And you can come and present it at the game, and IU Athletics will buy you ice cream from Chocolate Mousse, which will be one of our vendors up there, along with Jack's Donuts. So there'll be a real local feel in terms of the vendors, a real reason for the kids to want to go up there. They have their official card, and they're official members. Another really cool thing on the Sample Terrace will be gigantic letters that spell out I-N-D-I-A-N-A. That's Indiana, Mike. Just kidding. And they're going to be in the iconic graphic style that we see in the end zones at basketball and football and so forth. And they'll be 12 feet high, so it'll be very significant, great Kodak moments. And I think that'll become an iconic view of Memorial Stadium in particular and Indiana University in general. So, and included in the branding materials in your press releases will be a depiction of that I-N-D-I-A-N-A. And I think that's going to be awesome. We have some new premium seat options, 2 new suites up in the press box. The Henke Hall of Champions back here will become like a club season ticket. You're entitled to the seats out front, food and beverage in the back. We had hoped to sell 200. We've already sold over 250. We think that's going to be a great fan amenity. This room here will be the successor to the Hoosier Room in terms of hospitality, game days for our varsity club members. We hope that provides real additional value to them. Instead of going down in the basement for chips and a Coke, you're here with the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the field. You may have noticed that we also have done improved accessibility for our fans with disabilities. There's 4 platforms located in the grandstands to house fans with disabilities. We've also added 3 viewing platforms in press box suites, as well as expanded our ADA compliance with restrooms and concourses throughout Memorial Stadium, which was an important thing that we wanted to include in this renovation. And then finally, I note that the capacity, our goal was to try to keep the capacity roughly the same. We weren't looking to grow it. We really didn't want it to reduce. By the time you set off the number of seats lost with the improved accessibility and some of the seats that we added here, we've gone from 52,929 to 52,656. So the new official sellout at Memorial Stadium will be 52,656, and that's just about 0.5% reduction. And so I think we nailed our desire to keep the capacity pretty level. So that's really my inventory of just the Memorial Stadium improvements, from sort of the dramatic, like closing in the bowl, to the comparatively minor, although I think really important. And I can't wait for our fans to come on September 8th, 7:30 p.m. against the University of Virginia and see the new Memorial Stadium in all of its splendor. I want to add something about the football facilities. And again, we talked about the improvements that we had made to our football facilities. We have a couple more to report. The most significant of which by far is something we've talked about before, the Talon Indiana football complex. Construction on that, it will be starting soon. It'll be done by next football season. This will be a multi-million-dollar football-only venue, which will dramatically improve the Trent Green locker room, the Dr. John Miller training room with a new team lounge, new recruiting area, locker room, and enhanced equipment room. So that'll be a major step forward and a huge complement to the investments that we've already made in our football program. More immediately, and perhaps, well, not perhaps, less dramatically, but I think important because it's where the kids spend so much time, we're making a lot of improvements to our football team room. That's being completely renovated. That'll be ready for the first game, including all new seating, carpeting, and so forth. And again, just part of our ongoing efforts to improve our football amenities. I'd like to switch to football uniforms now. One of the things I'm really excited about are our new football helmets. So these will be, these are already being used by the kids. We bought new helmets for every single football player on our team, whether they're, Mr. Football of Indiana or someone that's on the scout team. And this is Riddell's new SpeedFlex Precision Fit helmet. Utilizes 2 different layers of 3D scanning technology to make a custom helmet for every individual player. It sits tight on their head in a way that no other helmet really can. Our equipment and medical staff believes this helmet is the safest helmet available in the marketplace. Outfitting the team cost $130,000 that we wanted to commit to the safety of our players. We will use this style and change it up a little bit with different decals for different games. And then next year we'll evaluate where we are, but the intention would be to add another helmet with another color and probably do that at least one other time. Part of that's budgetary, part of it's because the technology is changing so much. We didn't want to go in 2 or 3 with these right away. But when you have this kind of helmet, you just don't want to switch to a helmet that doesn't have this kind of technology. So we're really excited about this, and the players have responded to it in a great way. This also gives me an opportunity to show, I think for the first time, and we've got some physical depictions of that I think that John has in the back. This will be our sticker commemorating Coach Mallory. We've been having a variety of ways to acknowledge and commemorate and honor him and his impact on IU football, the men he coached, this department, and really the Bloomington community. I don't need to tell you guys he was 2-time Big Ten Coach of the Year and the winningest coach in IU football history. And it's also a great opportunity for Coach Allen to tell the guys what Coach Mallory was all about. I'll also note that this is where we will show the ubiquitous State of Indiana logo, which will appear on all of our uniforms. It appears on my nice Cosmo Kramer Weekender football shirt as well, because we are the flagship university and we lay claim to being the flagship university. All right. The final thing on uniforms, which may be in some ways the most interesting, is our name will be on the front of our jerseys and not on the back. As many of you may have noticed, we are going to Indiana across the front. Again, we are laying claim to being the flagship university in the state. We are going to proclaim it with Indiana across our chests in football, and we will no longer have our names on the back of our regular season jerseys. Our IU Athletics is about team over self. Tom Allen is about team over self. You guys have heard him talk about it. It's about what Tom says. It's about LEO, love each other. It's about nobody cares about who gets the credit, and it's about not about me. Okay, so that lines up really well, and this is an initiative for both myself and Tom to make a statement about team over self and no longer have the names on the backs of our regular season jerseys, and I'm excited about that. And that's another outcome of our brand and uniform guidelines that we'll share later on as we evaluated where we are And it's like, well, nobody has their names on the back, but football, you know, why is that? Should we talk about that? And so I think that's a really good outcome of being mindful about how we want to represent ourselves and represent Indiana University. I'm going to switch to improvements to football traffic and parking. Some might think that that's a fairly minor thing, although all of you who have driven 37/69 would probably not feel that way. I'm very excited to say that our long regional nightmare is over as of our game against Virginia. Working closely with NDOT and Governor Holcomb, who has been a great advocate and leader in this area, we have understood and has been committed that all 4 lanes of 69/37 from Martinsville to Bloomington, and for that matter from Martinsville to Indianapolis, will be all open in time for our home opener against Virginia. You guys, that's a big deal. I feel like somehow I honked off the traffic gods before I got this job, because first it was the bypass, then it was 37. We haven't had a clear run to Bloomington literally since I've been here. And there's no question in my mind that that's adversely impacted our football game day attendance. That was a tough element, and I appreciate most of our fans fighting through that. But I think maybe some of our, you know, some fans, that was a decision maker not to come. Well, that is over. We want to encourage everybody that may have stayed away because of the traffic issues to come on down, come down to the new Memorial Stadium, and that's going to be a big shot in the arm for us to not have that albatross around our neck any longer. We're also trying to do some things even more under our control. We're adding free parking options on game day. The Poplars Garage and the Henderson Garage will have free parking on game day. We'll also have paid parking available at the Kelly School Garage, or what they call the Fee Lane Garage. It's a little bit closer, and that'll be paid, but the Poplars and Henderson will be free. Also, we're very strongly encouraging people to buy their parking on the athletics campus prepaid. We believe that's going to sell out most games. We want to move to a prepaid parking for a variety of reasons, including the slowdown it takes when people are making change and so forth. So if you like to park on the athletics campus, then you really ought to get your ticket for your car in advance, and there's a $5 discount on that. So I know what you're thinking. Poplars is really far. The Henderson Garage down on 3rd is really far. But don't fear, because we are instituting a free shuttle that'll go from the Union at Woodlawn and 7th all the way up Woodlawn to Memorial Stadium. That'll run from, let's see, 2 hours before kickoff to 90 minutes after kickoff. So whether you take part of the free parking at Poplars, where there'll be a stop, or Henderson Garage, which isn't far from 7th and Woodlawn, you can ride the shuttle up here free, or you can hang out at your favorite establishment and just make your way over to 7th and Woodlawn and ride our free shuttle, which really takes advantage of the president having opened up Woodlawn. And we think that's going to be a tremendous asset to the connectivity between athletics on football game days and the main campus. I also note that we've dramatically expanded the Memorial Stadium Command Center upstairs. This should also help us monitor and react to traffic or emergency situations. And representatives from IU Emergency Management, IUPD, IU Health, ESG Securities, and others will be working in the command center, and some pretty good new real estate up there. Finally, out of the new group, before we get to the oldies but goodies, finally out of the new group, we are adding some new game day experiences. The spirit posters that we brought back a few years ago will now be converted into t-shirts. We'll give 1,000 of those away to the first 1,000 kids that come to the football games, and also early arriving IU students will be selected for a bunch of cool experiences at the game, including doing a run-on with the players, holding the state of Indiana flag, and so forth. So we're trying to do some things to help the students be involved and feel involved. So I am going to run down the oldies but goodies. It's on the list, but just a sense, because it's easy to forget what we've been doing over the last 10 years to try to generate traditions. And one of the things I like about generating traditions at the college level, having been a collegian myself, is when you come here, you don't know if this thing they're doing, you know, they've been doing for 170 years or like 2 years before you got here. And so it's easier to create traditions in a way, in an environment and a primary audience that is in many ways evergreen. So we'll continue the spirit posters, the kicks for keeps. We'll continue to ask our ushers and event staff to use our Hoosier Bucks and other means to engage with our fans. We'll continue the William Tell Overture, the fan run-ons, Back Home Again in Indiana, our victory flag, the Crimson Guard app, our red victory lights in the north end zone after wins, roving bands and cheerleaders on game day, Big Jake, the ROTC, cannon, the first down, touchdown, third and fourth down cheers, our on-campus pep rallies, our interactive zones, our tailgate and stadium spirit patrols around the complex, our fan advisory board, our oversized football to promote the games, special Memorial Stadium tours, our Uber, or they like me to say ride share, drop-off points, the free pedicabs, water stations. We're going to have food trucks and free refills inside the concourse, which I think will be a big plus for all of our fans, particularly our students, and then our promotions about Don't Be That Guy to make sure we enjoy the games in a civil way. So I know that was a lot. I'm excited that it was a lot. I do believe we're at a tipping point in terms of where we are with the support of Indiana football and our game day experience. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys might have. Michael?
So, first game, 4 lanes on 37, here in Bloomington, here in Indianapolis, the whole way.
Correct. We've talked to NDOT, talked to the governor's office. They understand the importance of that. They've been great partners in this, and they believe all the paving will be done, but to the extent weather or other things prevents it from being completely paved, they've worked out with the paving company to move the equipment so the lanes will be open.
Just in terms of the Excellence Center overall, is it completely up and functional now?
Yeah, I was talking a little bit to some of the other guys. The Excellence Academy is up and running. We have some branding to finish. Not all the chairs and furniture and equipment is here, so it's not completely up and running, but certainly the nutrition center is open, the training center is open, our wellness clinic is open, and you know, over the next couple weeks we'll probably get all the finishing touches done. Jordan?
You made any progress on bringing beer to the scene?
Well, I will say that in the Henke Hall of Champions Club, there will be adult beverages available, which I think has driven some of the interest in that. And we've monitored the positive experiences other institutions have had with that. Now, that's not a decision that's limited to the Department of Athletics. So, you know, I'm not a free agent on that and don't want to get too far down that trail. But I think it's fair to say that we've seen the benefits of that other places. In my mind, primarily as a game day experience. Secondly, as a way to reduce adverse alcohol incidents in stadiums, and then finally, revenue generation. But to me, that's sort of a distant third on the first two reasons to do that.
You may have covered this in the release too, but are you doing the clear bag thing on the way into the stadium again?
Right. We will do clear bag policy as well as the magnometers again this year. We've actually added, I think, half a dozen additional magnometers. We learned some things about crowd management. We think we got a lot better, and we believe that that there'll be very minimal delay for our fans. But we think that's an important piece in this day and age to continue to do. Yeah,
as far as facilities go, one of the things that we hear a lot about in recruiting is that a lot of schools have a football going to be on par with what we see at Iowa, Purdue, et cetera, and other places as far as full encompassing football and training facilities?
Right, right. Yeah, I note that with some bemusement in a way, because I feel like we really have been ahead of the curve, and that some of the more recent facilities are in some ways, I'm not going to say exactly Johnny-come-latelys, but catching up to us in a way. Query, if we had announced the north end zone, the south end zone, the Terry Talon football complex, the improvements to the practice facilities all at once, then we'd be talked about in that same group of people who have made more recent investments that we have really already made in terms of a 25,000 square foot performance center, coaches' suites, access to the practice facilities, connectivity to the indoor football Mellencamp pavilion, and so forth. So I feel very positively about where we have been. But having said all that, I do think the Terry Talon football complex will take us that final step. It'll be a multi-million-dollar facility. It'll be a beautiful state-of-the-art locker room. There'll be a football-only training facility there. So, you know, we have everything we need to be successful. We won't take a backseat to anybody in terms of facilities. I'd stack up our facilities against anybody's. The only thing we don't have is Lake Michigan. So I guess, you know, Jim Phillips and Northwestern have me on that one. But other than that, I would match ours up against anyone. And this sort of fixation on football only, you know, at one level, you know, we are similar in football only. We're here in Memorial Stadium. The Performance Center looks out over the football field. We have connectivity to the football practice fields. Football is the primary tenant of the Mellencamp Pavilion. We will have the football-only Terry Talon complex. But I just reject the philosophy that like a performance center, to be legit, has to be football only. Reasonable people can disagree, but I think it's better to have a facility. Number one, you get more value out of it, the more people use it. Also, I think we've seen, you know, in some places that a cloistered, we're not part of you facility or mentality can have some undesirable consequences in terms of, you know, what goes on there. So I think, you know, having a place that's more open, and I'll tell you one thing, our football players like it. They like being in a place where they meet other kids and have a broader perspective. So that's a long answer. The bottom line is I feel good about our facilities. I think we've been doing for 10 years what some people are catching up and doing now, and our facilities take a backseat to nobody. Terry.
The helmet decal for Coach Mel. I mean, Hep has a rock. Have you thought about a physical thing for Coach Mallory inside the stadium or outside?
Yeah, like I said, the tribute to Coach Mallory is ongoing. You know, we hosted the memorial service here that I think was a very positive thing. I know the family appreciated that. He was so larger than life and had so much impact beyond being the football coach. I mean, it was the formation of young men. It was on the department. It was on the Blooming community. So I think this will be a continuing process of honoring him. This is just maybe a smallish, you know, next step. But I would imagine that there will be some physical, permanent commemoration of all that he brought to IU football and IU generally. Jeff?
Just to follow up a couple things on the complex and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of what we hear from recruits, the coaches, and whatever. IU as an institution took more than $26 million of Big Ten money and used it outside of athletics. IU has one of the smaller budgets among the Big Ten schools, especially in the Big Ten. What exactly happened there with $26 million being taken away, and sort of how do those decisions become, you know, come to fruition?
Mm-hmm.
What impact could that $26 million have had at the state level?
Right, right. Well, first of all, that's university money, not athletics money. And one of our values is to be integrated with the university. And when the opportunity comes up to help with a major academic priority of the president's, we're very willing to participate in that. Now, I'm not going to say that that's not a lot of money, but I note, for example, with the Global International Studies building, the $26 million that you referenced, yeah, that's a lot of money. We pay the bond service on that. It's not an insignificant amount of money, but it's not like we give them $26 million cash on the barrelhead. We fund the debt service on that, which I think is like about $1.5 million a year. Again, not small, but on a $110 million budget, the $1.5 million is, you know, comparatively doable. I'll also note that until this upcoming year, IU athletics, unlike probably almost all the other departments in the Big Ten, didn't have an operating reserve fund. We were living hand to mouth, not because we wanted to, but because we felt like we needed to spend all that. Through our financial planning and through money generated by the new TV deal, we're able to put ourselves in a position to create a reserve fund. And I guess the point of that is, number one, I think that's a great step forward in terms of fiscal management. Number two, we've gotten to the place where we don't have to spend every cent we generate. And of course, I'll use this opportunity to remind everybody that we don't get any money from tuition. We don't get any money from the university. We don't get any money from the General Assembly. We get it the old-fashioned way. We either ask somebody for it, which we've been doing a lot of, or we earn it through selling tickets and sponsorships and so forth. We are completely financially independent. So I think the reserve fund is an indication that, you know, we're in a position where we can help the university on major projects, and we think we should. And we're not, to answer your question specifically, we're not doing without anything as a result of the money that we've committed to the university. And I think, you know, in this business, you've got to walk and chew gum at the same time. I'm proud of the fact that we could answer the call to support a major university academic project, and it has not adversely affected our ability to be competitive. Mike?
Tom was saying yesterday that Morgan Ellison's thing is out of his hands. It's out of his hands. Where is that being adjudicated?
Yeah. That's an accurate statement by Tom, but I'm not going to comment on anything beyond what we've put out already on Morgan. Anything else, you guys? Yes.
The locker room renovation in the southeast corner, Assembly Hall, what's the progress there? How's that going?
Right. References to the locker room renovation that we're also doing in Assembly Hall. I don't know the exact date, but it'll be ready before the season starts. I think it's like early October. So the guys will be able to go in there in early October. We're also doing a major locker room replacement for the women's team in Cook Hall. And my expectation is that I'm not sure when that's going to be done, but at least the designing is underway, and I think we may have installation before the season starts.